In this lesson, we will start setting up the main lights for the scene and do some tweaks on the nucleus and the cell membrane shaders. We are going to light the scene using more or less a 3-point lighting setup. But before I start adding the lights into the scene, I want to go ahead into the hypershade and add some glossiness and reflection to the nucleus and the cell membrane, just so we can get most out of the lights and the reflection that it casts on the shaders. So, to do that, open up the hypershade. Now let's select the nucleus base color. Now just scroll down to the reflection, and the first thing we have to tweak is under reflection color. Just drag the slider to get white. For the amount, I'm going for something around 4.5, something along these lines. So if we look at this now and drag it into the work area, and again press F to focus on it, we can see that this adds some reflection to the nucleus. But again, this adds a reflection which is on all of the faces, like it's uniform. What I'm looking for more of a Fresnel effect reflection, which is less reflective when facing the camera, more reflective on the edges. To do that, V-Ray makes it really easy. What you have to do is you just have to scroll down a bit and you will see something called Use Fresnel. Just make sure to check that. This you can see immediately. We still have some reflection on the sides, because if you go up and just don't bring down the black, you'll see there is no reflection now. So this adds some reflection, but the reflection is only visible on the edges and not the facing of the camera. Another thing I'm going to add, I'm going for not a mirror reflection, I'm going for a more glossiness reflection. And for this one, I'm going to go with something around 6.7. We were going to be doing a couple of tests, so don't worry about these settings. We can tweak them to get the look that we're going for. Now, next one, I'm going to be adding some reflection to the membrane color. So select membrane color. You can drag that here so we can see the tweaks done to it. Again, under reflection color, just slide this to the white. For the amount, I'm going for a less reflective, something along 2.5 is good. Again, for this one, I'm not looking for a mirror reflection. I want a more of a glossy reflection. I'm going for something around 0.7. Now, let's go back into the perspective and start adding some lights. For this scene, I'm going to be using V-Ray Rect Lights. So, under Create, Lights, V-Ray Rect Light. I'm going to name this Key Light, and I'm going to start moving it. If we're having a problem, just selecting, go to Hypershade, under the Lights tab, just select it, go back to Perspective, and now just move this into place. I want this light to be casting lights from the top right corner on the cell. Now let's open up the attribute and go and just do a couple of settings and tweaks to this one. For the intensity multiplier, 30 is too much, too high. I'm going to go with 10. Again, we're going to do a couple of tests to see if this is good or not. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind when working with the V-Ray rectangular lights is when you resize them. I highly recommend using the U size and the V size when resizing a rectangular light in V-Ray. You can go ahead and resize this using the scale, but the problem with this one is when you start scaling it with the scale tool, what will happen is it will also affect the intensity, and you cannot make sure you don't scale this using the scale tool and the U and the V size, because then you'll have really, you won't be able to tweak this easily. So I highly recommend using only the U and size when resizing a rectangular. So I'm going to go ahead and just make this a bit to 2 point something like that. For the U size, the height, like the V size of it, I'm going to go with the maybe 3 or something like that. Right, we're gonna do a couple of tests and see if this works for us. Alright. Now for the color, I'm going for a purplish, really purplish light, bluish light color. Alright, and now let's go ahead and do a test render and see how this looks. Alright, one thing, just make sure you're rendering using the render camera. Is a camera that we created when we started adding the Billy. Alright, so here we do have some reflections, some of the glossiness reflection on this one, on the cell membrane and on the nucleus. But another thing we can see is that the light is appearing in the render. So to fix that, select the light and just scroll down till you get to the options and make sure you have invisible checked. Alright, now just rotate this a bit, go a bit far, and I'm going with a more bluish color. And now if we do another test render, I'm going to save this. Alright, now you see the light is not appearing in the render anymore. So we're going to move this a bit and rotate it just so we get. So I know I named this a key light, and it's going to make look more like a rim light rather than a key light. So think of it, it's a mixture of both. Alright, I'm going to move this a bit to the back, or even we can bring down the intensity, maybe something around 8, and do another test render. Alright, this is looking far much better. One thing I want to add is I want this reflection to affect, and the light to affect more of the sphere. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the height a bit bigger. So I'm going to go something around 3. And now if we save this, and I'll just do a render on this section. Alright, as you can see, this adds more light, so the light is bigger and we have more light affecting the cell. Again, you can tweak this to get the look that you're going for. I'm going to maybe tweak this a bit more. U, maybe the V as well. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and add another light, which is going to give us a rim light on the bottom left corner of this one. And for the fill light, I'm going to use a dome light. Now to create a new light, we can either duplicate this one, and I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this light by hitting Control D or Command D, and I'm going to name this rim light. Move this into place. Just rotate this just to hit the bottom left. Gonna make this a bit smaller. And for the intensity, I'm going with a lower intensity, something around 4. And now if we do a test render, alright, now as you can see, this adds a nice strong rim key light to the right side, and this adds a more fainter light to the left side. This gives a nice look to the sphere. Now we can see the bump maps, and now we can see the glossiness and reflection of this, and we can see the nice colors that the nucleus has. Now in the next lesson, we will add the dome light and set up an image-based lighting for the scene.